Hey everybody, welcome to another entry in the Hyrule Compendium, and today we are talking about the progression of difficulty in the original Legend of Zelda. Now you're saying you like it. It's a good...
I actually think it's one of the best.
Compared to other Zelda games?
Yes.
Okay.
So, we'll talk, I guess, a little more specifically about the dungeons in particular.
Yeah.
When you go to that first dungeon, nobody is getting stuck in that dungeon. There's a limited number of places you can go. There's some bombable walls here and there, some secrets, but they're just shortcuts. And I don't think there's any enemies in that first dungeon that are, too overwhelming.
It's not as synonymous with gaming. It's not as classic, but it does make me think of World 1-1 from Mario a little bit.
Great example, actually.
Where it's like you can drop someone into that. A lot of people probably can just casually play that, and it's not too hard.
That's a great comparison, I think. Actually,
Thank you.
It is World 1. Like, some people are gonna die by that first, some of the first enemies you encounter. Same thing in Legend of Zelda, and when you get to, I guess Aquamentus would be like Bowser in World 1-4. First time you play, you're probably gonna die against Aquamentus a few times.
Yeah.
Because you don't know his attack pattern, you don't know how he moves. Once you defeat him, and then when you look back at it, you're like, oh, that guy was a joke. He's one of the easiest bosses in the game. One thing also to talk about is the first dungeon is sort of right there. It's right in the middle of the world. It's only a few screens away, and the route, there's no tough enemies in that area.
You get some Octoroks You could die on your way to that dungeon, though.
You could, yeah.
I probably did a lot.
But then the significantly more difficult overworld enemies are off in the distance.
Mm-hmm.
You're not encountering even the second tier, like the blue moblins, or even P-hats are kind of difficult in this early portion of the game.
Yeah.
You could explore the whole world if you want to.
Yeah.
But the areas that indirectly, it doesn't really guide you, but it's like, oh, these are the safe areas you can go.
When I play it, I get that the white sword right away, and it's one of the most tense moments.
That one Lionel.
I love that. That's so early on in the game, and you're just like, all right, I'm gonna run for it. Great. That's amazing.
You gotta prove your worth by getting by the Lionel before you can get the sword.
Just that one, yeah. And then later it's like
6 of them,
and you're like, oh, okay.
There's a little bit of this in the first dungeon, but there's significant. Level 2, there's 6 rooms you don't even have to go into. You can just go up all the way, and there's bombable walls, and it's sort of
there's bombable walls, but you don't need to bomb them, really.
Right.
Yeah.
And it starts there's already an optional item in the second dungeon. There's one in the first dungeon. You don't need to get the boomerang. Every dungeon, literally, the maps start getting larger and larger. I think the second, third, and fourth dungeons kind of bleed in with one another a little bit, but then its difficulty just starts skyrocketing a little bit towards the later portion of the game. The mazes become more complex. The enemies become significantly more difficult.
I mean, you start level 1, most of the enemies you attack are either gonna die right away, or they're gonna bounce off when you hit them with your sword. Level 2, you get the ropes charging at you, and you eventually get enemies where you hit them with their sword, but they just keep coming at you, and then eventually you get the dark nuts, so you can't hit them from certain sides. So
I think they introduced red dark nuts in level 3, I want to say. Even the Dango, who was a boss in level 2, is now a regular enemy in 3 and 4. Sometimes there's 3 of them at the same time. So you the enemy progressions that one. There's that one in the 5th dungeon with the blue dark nuts, where there's 8 of them in the same room or whatever. You got to kill them all to progress. The next dungeon, the 6th dungeon, I believe. I think that's the first area where you enter the dungeon and you have access to 6 or 7 rooms, and you can go search all of them. I think you might get the dungeon map, but then it's there's a dead end everywhere you go. And it's now requiring you to use bombs to blast away walls to find even just the main pathway. The dungeons progress in difficulty for sure, but then also in confusion. They get so much larger, especially some of the later dungeons, and then start having the like the underground staircases. It's like you see the compass and the boss is right here, but you have to go to the other end of the level to go through an underground staircase to get to that room.
Yeah, whereas like level 1, you have to take a small detour, but you can kind of figure out, okay, I go up this way, and then I need to head that way. And there's really only one pathway that'll take you to the boss.
Yeah.
I think they intentionally designed some levels to where they not troll you, but they kind of mess with you a little bit.
You get the compass and you see where he is, and you can actually go to the adjacent rooms. And in that game, when you're in the adjacent rooms, you hear the boss like screaming. It feels like you're right next to the boss because you are one room away, but you have no access to him, and you gotta go all the way up to the top right corner, push a block randomly, go down a staircase, and then suddenly, oh, here we are.
There's one level you have to bomb to get into the boss room.
Yeah.
So that would mess with me a little bit.
Yeah.
That did mess with me a little bit.
I mean, there's level 7 with all the whiz robes. They come into play. So the enemies just keep ramping up, it seems.
Those are some of the most aggressive enemies, I think, too.
Yeah.
Because they fly at you.
All of this culminates with Death Mountain.
Which, when you were talking about taking the staircases and all that stuff, it's a nightmare.
There's like 7 underground pathways. I want to say it's like, I don't know, like a 10 by 8 grid. There's like maybe it's like 60, 70 rooms. I don't know how many rooms there are in this dungeon, but there's a lot of them. Like 2/3 of them you never have to step foot into. If you know the path, you can just route yourself through, but nobody knows that the first time through. And they're just navigating, and not only is it hard to navigate, it's the last level, and it introduces some brand new enemies and some of the most difficult enemies. Mm-hmm. In particular, the land mollusks, the blue ones that just zigzag all over the room. Our good friend Patra is there.
Love that guy.
2 different variants of Patra, too.
2 in this one?
Yeah, one he's got the circle, and then one with the like ellipse moving eyes that are a little more difficult. It's a tough dungeon.
Yeah.
Like even
when you know where to go.
I know where to go, and I still get a potion.
Yeah.
As like a safety valve, because if you die, this is not like Twilight Princess where you just spawn at the start of the room that you're in or whatever, You
go all the way back.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's some enemies who stay dead, but but you gotta fight through stuff.
Yeah, and in that one you gotta go through a lot of rooms to get from to Ganon. And
that's like the opposite of the first dungeon, like we were talking about. It reminds me of World 1-1, where you might dive by this Goomba or this Stalfos, but like the backtracking is easy. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, well now you can at least get to where you were and progress a little before you might die again.
Yeah.
Before you get boomeranged or something. But in this, it's like you won't make it as far as you were if you die, because now you only have 3 hearts.
I would go as far as saying, outside of maybe Adventure of Link, I think that's in there as well, this might be the best Zelda game in the whole series in terms of difficulty progression. Because I think a lot of Zelda games, the vast majority of them, I'd say, you become so overpowered.
Yeah.
This game, you can be 100. You can getting all the heart containers, the tunic upgrade, the sword upgrade. You can have the medicine, and even despite all that, you could struggle later in the game.
Yeah, but it truly is progression. Because if you had all that stuff and went back and did Dungeon 4 or whatever, where all the blue dark nuts were, it'd be easy. Because now you got the magic sword.
Easier, yeah.
Yeah, sure, but yeah, you wouldn't have as hard of a time with it.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, yeah, it's not just like the game is consistently hard. It's that it's hard and it consistently gets harder.
Yes.
So what do you guys think? Are there other games that you feel like had a better difficulty progression? We've shot it down. That's probably not right, but
it's a definitive opinion.
Try to prove us wrong in the comments. But yeah, let us know if there are any other games you think do that well, and give us a like, subscribe if you enjoyed, and thanks for watching.